Welcome to the Gary Null Show, a program designed to enhance mental, physical, and spiritual well-being through science and the wisdom of the ages. Let us take you on a journey of empowerment. Sit back, relax, and get ready to change your life for good.
Hi, I'm Gary Null, and I'd like to welcome you to our program. We're here to talk about health and nutrition issues, but today, a very serious issue, one that affects millions of Americans. Over 600,000 veterans served in the Gulf War theater. Not all of them were actually there, but over 100,000 have now suffered from what is called Gulf War syndrome, and more are expected. Now, when you add in their families and extended friends, well, you're talking about millions of people. So I'm sure that everyone watching knows someone who served in the Gulf War has had Gulf War syndrome. We are going to take our camera around the world and show you the truth behind Gulf War syndrome. First, the government said it didn't exist. It was all in their mind. But how can rare cancers and lymphomas and how can herpes lesions on the skin not only affect the person who served in the Gulf, but their children and their spouses? That's the case. This is a special in-depth investigative report. Occasionally we do these on this program. It's going to be a sobering look at Gulf War syndrome, a deadly legacy. With only 148 Americans officially killed in action and only 467 wounded, ours seemed to be a shining victory in the Gulf. But this victory has lost its glow somewhat now that we know that tens of thousands of our Gulf service people have become sick from a mysterious, debilitating, and sometimes deadly syndrome. The Department of Veterans Affairs has reported that approximately 6,000 soldiers have died since the war's conclusion, including 1,300 18 to 24-year-olds who were in perfect health prior to the war, but who mysteriously contracted various forms of cancer after their involvement with the military.
This war was a different war. It wasn't the war of gun shells, of bullets, exploding mines. This was a new technology.
It's like they use sophisticated weapons on us, and we're suffering from some type of sophisticated illness, but there's no sophisticated protocol or treatment program for us.
My doctor says we brought something back from the Gulf, and it's unexplainable.
This one, unlike Agent Orange, is not going to die when the veteran dies. This one is contagious. This one is a biological, and it is loose.
My greatest fear is that the human race has been experimented on, and that it will continue.
Doctors and researchers say they have found significant brain damage, immune system problems, autoimmune diseases. We found early on that the veterans were showing viruses, and not just one virus like a cytomegalovirus in their body, but multiples.
But I look at it sometimes that he probably would have been better off getting killed over there. It's an awful thing to say, than coming home and watching him suffer the way he's suffering now.
There's been a recent cascade of revelations about our Gulf War experience, and today, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist, simply a reader of mainstream media to understand that our government has been trying to hide important facts from us for most of this decade.
It's a great day to be a soldier, and it's a great day to be an American.
You trusted the people that gave the orders. And I guess they trusted the people that gave them the orders.
We should have learned something from our Vietnam experience with the Agent Orange, but it appears that we really have not. Our veterans are having to go through the same process that our Vietnam veterans did, and that's just totally unacceptable.
It's harder fighting the VA, and it's definitely harder fighting the Pentagon than it was the Iraqis.
They're afraid to come forward now. These guys are not afraid of machine guns and bombs and sandstorms, but they're afraid of their own government.
There is no one cause of Gulf War syndrome. Instead, we are dealing with a multiplicity of poisons. As is the case with most health issues, Gulf War syndrome is a complex problem. Servicemen have been plagued with a broad spectrum of chronic disorders. A variety of hazardous substances they encountered in the Gulf, including poison gases, diesel fumes, petroleum-related pollution, parasites, experimental medications, and biological warfare agents, are all part of the syndrome. Two ex-CIA employees asserted that the CIA had evidence of up to 60 Gulf War incidents of American troops' exposure to chemical weapons. Tens of thousands of our people in the Gulf may have been exposed, said Patrick Eddington, who had specialized before resigning from the CIA in analyzing aerial photographs of that region.
Well, the intelligence community assessment before the war was that Iraq had actually moved the weapons into the theater of operations. The chemical weapons, for certain, had been moved into the theater of operations. Now, how did we know that? Well, we had human spies that were basically passing that kind of information. But we also saw evidence on the ground of the Iraqis constructing chemical decontamination trenches outside of ammunition depots. Well, you don't need to do that unless you've got chemical weapons there, because there's no need to have a chemical decontamination trench unless chemical agents are present. So that was one of the major indicators that we had that the weapons were actually forward deployed. We knew that Saddam had various nerve and blister agents in his chemical arsenal, things like sarin, soman, and tabin for nerve agents, and mustard agent and possibly lewisite for the blister agents. But we also knew that Saddam had a very active biological warfare program, and that was also a great concern, things like anthrax, botulinum toxoid. And the problem with dealing with the biological issue is that there are very few indicators, reliable indicators, that it's actually being used. It's the kind of thing that can be employed by special forces operating behind the lines. An aircraft with a spray tank can dispense it. A lot of different ways that you can actually get that kind of agent on the battlefield. So we knew the threat was real. There was clear evidence that it had been forward deployed. And that's why when General Schwarzkopf and others were claiming after the war that they had never found anything, that it really didn't make sense to a lot of people.
I mean, they knew what they were getting into. They knew what they sent over there. I mean, it's not just like it, you know, happened. Now they're coming up and saying, oh, we didn't receive those papers while we were there. We didn't know nothing about it. Come on. You go over to fight a country or whatever and you don't know what you're doing, then we shouldn't have gone.
A sad irony of the Gulf War involves the origin of Iraqis' biological weapons. At least some of them came from the United States. According to the Regal Report, during the 1980s, the United States government supplied Iraq and its Atomic Energy Commission with at least 28 biological weapons to use in its bitter war with neighboring Iran. In 1987, then Vice President George Bush met with Iraqi officials to ensure that technological equipment used to produce chemical and biological warfare agents would continue to be exported to the Iraqis. When he assumed the presidency, Bush maintained this policy despite congressional dissension. Corporations involved in transactions with the Iraqi government included Hewlett-Packard, Honeywell, Rockwell, and Tektronix, were licensed to export more than $1.5 million of highly sophisticated equipment in the 5 years preceding the Gulf War,